Hey, beautiful beings. Welcome to today's episode of The Spiritual Journey. My name is Lindsay Banks, and today we have the fabulous David Weiss with us, also known as Flat Earth Dave. So welcome in, Dave.
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be.
I think it's still morning here. No idea. So, Dave, I was just saying that a friend of mine introduced me to a show you were on, a YouTube video that you did, which was it was incredulous. I think it was about 5 hours long. It was a really, really long channel on the killer priests.
Oh boy, yeah, that was something else. The world is perfect. It's just perfect. It's round.
It's a topic that I heard about probably 3 years ago, and it was someone who said to me he was a flat earth believer, and it just sort of went over my head at the time. And I asked in my group, do people believe if the earth is round or if it's flat? And there was a lot of opinions in there as well. So I really wanted a chance to just speak with you to find out more about what flat earth is. But I thought if we can just start with where you started your flat earth journey.
I started it like everybody else. I was actually doing a podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole about conspiracies. So you would say that I was pretty open-minded, hey, this event that the news reported isn't what they said. Oh, let me look into it. And, most people it was on the news. It's true. So I was open-minded. I thought people started sending me flat earth stuff. Hey, Dave, have you looked into flat earth? And first I thought it was a joke. Then it became annoying. Then I banned people from our social media for even suggesting that I look. And then I was tired of it. And I decided to look because people that I knew and respected were starting to ask the question. Mm. And I went in with a closed mind trying to debunk it. And that's how you become a flat earther, because it's funny that people in your Facebook group that freaked out on you, I bet if you asked them simple questions like how many times does the earth spin in a day? How fast is it orbiting? How far away is the sun? They would get at least two of them wrong, if not all three. Mm-hmm. And then their idea of what flat earth is completely different from what actual flat earth researchers believe. They end up at the Flat Earth Society and think that the earth is a disc, a pizza floating in a heliocentric solar system. If that was true, I would say flat earthers are crazy, if that's what I believed flat earth was, right? But so the people that defend the ball have no idea what their model is and have an incorrect idea of what our model is. So those are the people that are defending it. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but do you think those people are defending it because that's what we've been told and conditioned to believe for so long?
100%. You were taught before you could speak that the earth was a ball. All of the cartoons, the books that your parents, read to you. Good Night Moon. That was the biggest children's book, right? And, astronauts are on Sesame Street. Every child's program has, ball earth programming and, all the movies, everything. And once you see it that it's everywhere. When you go to school, your teachers are gods. What do they have in the front of the class? They have a globe. And one of the first worksheets that you bring home is the orbits of the planets and the moons and the sun. And, I actually remember that sheet, and kids still get that to this day. That is foundation building.
Okay. So in terms of, what is flat earth then to you? How would you explain it to someone?
How would I explain it? The easiest way I explain it is flat earth is, as I just showed you, we're not a disc floating in space. We're a pond on a massive extended earth plane. Just for lack of a better way of explaining it, the earth plane is the basement of the universe. What's below it? Nobody knows what's inside the earth, flat or round. The deepest hole ever dug is less than 8 miles, and nobody knows what's below that 8 miles. Wow. And if they tell you they do, they're full of it, because when they were digging that 8 miles, they got everything wrong. When they were using their ground penetrating radar to see what was next, they were wrong every step of the way. So what is flat earth? Where does a puddle form? At the top of a hill or at the bottom of the hill?
Bottom.
Bottom, of course. Water, large bodies of waters at rest, lay flat, and they seek the ultimate base level. Well, we live in what I call the Antarctic basin. Antarctica is not a continent at the bottom of a ball. Antarctica is the land that surrounds our world pond. Okay. We live in a pond on a plain. Antarctica is the highest land on Earth. It's the container of our water. All of the continents are surrounded by water, but all of the water is surrounded by its container, and that's Antarctica. Antarctica could be likely bigger than all of the continents and all of the oceans combined. We don't know how far it goes because nobody is allowed to go beyond 60 degrees south. You could take a little vacation, you know, cost you 20 to 50 or $1,000 or more to go to this little peninsula here. They barely let you off the ship. There's no independent exploration out here. Drones are off limits. You know, you're not allowed to do anything except they show you some penguins here and, you know, some ice, and then they kick you out, and that's it.
Might as well go to the zoo.
Yeah, you might as well. And I don't even know if those penguins are native to Antarctica. There might be nothing down there. Who knows at this point?
Yeah. Okay, so in terms of like, so I've recently also been reading about Antarctica, and I truly believe that they're meant to be melting. The ice caps are meant to be melting. What's your thoughts around that?
Well, the global warming, global warming is nonsense. And I think you know, there's lots of stories about what's beyond Antarctica, and one of them is called the Iron Republic, and it's about somebody in the 1800s that found a hole through Antarctica. And they all of a sudden they got lost. They're out in the ocean. They're lost for about a month, and they came across this land, and there was people out there. And these are people that they're an advanced civilization. This was written in like 1901, give or take, it's somewhere around there. And the story was, you know, they ended up going to visit this land. There was people there. There was electric cars. There was things hovering, I think, flat screens, computers, you know, handheld devices, like we had stuff like we're just getting now.
Yeah. And
so, and the story that these people lived here in the inner space, but they were in the 1600s, but there was tyranny. Could you imagine that? Tyranny? Yeah. And they left. They defected. They left. So, you know, so what is out there? That's a possibility of what's out there. This was a map that was found in Hawaii, about 10 centuries old, and it shows all of these other continents out there. So the whole thing is about control. It's really about controlling your mind. Right now, they're trying to control everything. You know, they're trying to stick an IP address on everything. You have an IP address. You know, I believe if you get this thing in the arm, that's going to be your IP address. And, you know, they admit that they want all food, every banana, to have its own IP address. Could you imagine?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my days. Yeah, I was just going to say, so I've seen some maps as well, and I've read a bit about Antarctica where there is land on like where Antarctica is now. And my feeling is that like the Earth has obviously changed over the centuries, but that this landmass will come back up.
Yeah, so here's and I think you watched What on Earth Happened series, or which is on my app. So this is actually, I'm not even gonna, it doesn't matter where this map is from, but I think you know where it's from. But
yeah,
we live here, and this is our known world, all of these green continents. And this outer white line is the edge of the world pond. So this is the shoreline of what we call Antarctica, okay? And then here are the tropics. The sun, you know, travels in between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer. Here's the equator. So imagine this. Imagine everything outside of this is frozen tundra. And there's a true magnetic center here, and we have this magnetic ring right here. Well, our magnetic north moves. Well, I'm sorry, the magnetic north is migrating along here, and it goes 15 degrees every 2,160 years. And that would mean it would take just over 25,000 years to go all the way around, and that would be a great year. So this is our pond. Our sun is going around and around, oscillating in and out, keeping this pond melted. Well, if the center of the sun goes around the magnetic center, if the center of the sun moved all the way over to here, let's say, well, this pond would now be over, what I can do the circle, would now be on the other side of the circle, would be all the way over here, right? And so this would all be frozen again. So that kind of, to me, is a pretty good story, because there's maps of what we call Antarctica that were unfrozen. So if that's true, you know, more land will be exposed over here. You know, it depends on which way we're going. And I think this is actually backwards. So more land would be exposed over here, and then this would start freezing over here, right? This would start freezing. And then the center of our world, like if the center was right here, our world would be over here, right? You with me?
Yeah.
So
Fascinating.
Yeah, so that's very, very interesting. Again, we're trying to figure this out. We know that we don't know. Globe believers have no idea that they don't know. And worse than that, they think they know.
Yeah. And it's, I suppose, like when you are just finding out that the earth isn't round, then it must be a shock, because you're like, well, that's what I've always believed. That's what I've been told. Why have these people lied to me? So it makes you then start going down this sort of like rabbit hole, and then going, well, what else have I been
Welcome to my
lied
life. Welcome to my life. Right? You know, but the world is kind of round. So is a table, so is a coin, so is a pizza. So when we have to be very careful when we use our words, we have to say the world is not spherical. Okay. Because we see in circles, you know, so everything looks round to us. And, you know, there was a day where the light was hitting my dining room table so just right. And I took a picture of it and kind of darkened it a little bit. And I told people that it was a big spherical ball that I had. And it looked like, and they believed it. I'm like, no, that's my table. They're like, oh yeah, now I see it. So we see what we're programmed to see. And we see in circles, right? If somebody's just standing here, they see a certain distance before the sky merges with the ground. And that's the limit of your vision. If you had a super zoom lens, you could open that up and then you could see further until it merges again. So this is the merging point, the vanishing point, and we see the same distance in all directions. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
If I see 10 miles or 50 miles, whatever it is, same distance in all direction. And this is a curved view. So if you draw a line over it through the sky, skimming the tangent of your view, you may think that this is a sphere, the edge of a horizon, right?
Yeah.
Horizons are horizontal. They're not curvisons, they're horizons.
Yeah, because in my mind, there is like a dome shape over the top of the earth. Is that sort of like what you feel as well?
So,
what you believe?
Yeah, so we've all seen the images, the snow globe images of Earth, the dome. This might be out of proportion because, you know, all the evidence that we see, we think that the beginning of the dome, the thickening of the atmosphere before it becomes liquid and solid, is only like 70 miles up. But even if it was 200 miles up, just rounding up, if you look at that on the Earth, well, here's Australia right here. How long is 200 miles in Australia? You know, it would be like this. So that would be the height of the dome. So it would kind of almost look like a slightly domed flat cover, you know, a quarter of an inch above this thing, right? So that would be a much lower dome, still a dome, okay? It might be higher than that. We don't know because these are things that are out of our out of our reach. There was you know, when NASA shoots up rockets, they curve up and they go out into the ocean and they disappear. You know, when an amateur shoots up a rocket, this was the Go Fast rocket. It went straight up. We get an uninterrupted view, unlike NASA, SpaceX, and the rest of the nonsense, where it's edit. You know, different angle, just to confuse your mind so you can't see what nonsense this is. This went up 73 miles, and then all of a sudden, it sounded like it went into a thicker medium. It looked like it went into a thicker medium. There's arguments on why it stopped spinning all of a sudden, right? Some people say it had a mechanism in it. But what I find interesting is when it turned on its side, we could see the moon, not hugging the horizon. We see the moon almost at the same height.
Yeah.
And this was in Arizona, and the moon was over New Zealand at that time. Well, you couldn't see it. That would be like if you're on the top of a basketball, you're a millimeter maybe over the top of that basketball, and the moon is over New Zealand. How would you see it?
Yeah, not possible.
No.
Yeah, just going to NASA as well. So I was just I was reading something, or I'd read something about how NASA had been established in 1956 to stop people knowing that the Earth was flat instead of globe shaped.
Right. So there was several operations that happened. Operation High Jump in 1946, when they discovered, you know, when they were able to start exploring Antarctica. You know, our technology of this kept world that we're in, this controlled world. I believe all this technology, better technology, existed long before you know, the 1900s.
Definitely.
And you know, then there was Operation Fishbowl, where they were discovered the firmament. Then NASA was formed. So Operation Fishbowls, when Adam Byrd, flew out there, found out all of what's going on. Then they created NASA to take over anyone trying to get too high, right? So they militarized it. And then quickly, after Admiral Byrd goes out, he goes on, I think NBC, in the early days, and tells a story of that he flew out there. There's land bigger than the United States, filled with resources that no human has ever set eyes upon. Right? He said this on TV. Now, there's arguments. Did he say that because they're letting us know, or did he accidentally just get on this news show and then the lead are like, wait a minute, hold on, we need control of this. So why all the countries are fighting, killing each other over resources. They discover all these resources and everyone goes, oh no, we must protect the penguins and the ice. It's the only pristine place left on Earth. Right? Before environmentalism was even a word, they came up with this Antarctic treaty. A dozen countries signed on. Now, like almost every country is signed on. And it says nobody under any circumstance whatsoever, no corporation, no country, nobody is allowed to explore Antarctica until the year 2041. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, and you're not even allowed to question the treaty. There's been stories of people that got permission from their small little countries to go, and before they even got there, they're intercepted by warships, threatened to be sunk, turned around, sent home, and when they get home, they're jailed. Okay?
Yeah.
So people say, well, they can't protect the whole thing. Well, where are you going? How are you getting there? Where's your fuel? What are you going to do? There's nothing that grows there. You can't just go there. And yeah, they can protect the whole thing. You ever hear of radar? NASA runs all the world's radar. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting as well. I don't know if you've seen just talking about NASA, and if we go on to like the moon landings, so there's the bearded dragon pop video where they're blatantly showing that the moon landings have been created in a Hollywood studio. I don't know if you've seen that.
So yeah, there's one of them that came out. I think it was a little controlled opposition that came out with some of those clips mixed in with other clips from the movie Capricorn 1 and other movies. Capricorn 1 is a movie basically telling the truth, where they faked the moon mission or the Mars mission, whatever it was. So there's already that they've already dirtied the water on that. But yeah, I saw there's 2 videos out. I'm actually looking at them. I'm thinking about putting them on the app, actually let more people see them. And it's very, 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 very believable that, the fact that they faked the moon landings, that's not even a question anymore in my book.
Yeah. For me, I was like, I'm learning about these moon landings at school, but then I was always like, well, if they've gone once, why aren't they going back again? Why did they just, why would they just do it once?
Because of aliens. The aliens told us not to come back. That's the story that people say. This is well, it's not a real story. It's a real story, but it's nonsense. Look at this photo. A NASA advisor, NASA astronaut, sci-fi author, movie director, and the senior administrator of the Apollo project, all together in Hollywood in 1965, just before the moon landing nonsense. Right? What are the odds of that?
Yeah. It's but there's again, some people might not know that it has been faked, and they might still be believing it, because they made it sort of like look, if you like, proper. Do you know what I mean?
Well, they made it look proper. That's because we just believed it. It was nonsense. Look at that horizon. Is that 20 feet behind or 30 feet behind him? And he dropped his hammer, and guess what? He can't pick it up because I believe on this set, they were actually hanging from helium balloons, giant balloons that are making them weightless. And he can't get enough momentum to reach his friggin' hammer. Okay. It's so horrible. Right. And then when you look at the this is the lander. This is the lander. Look at this thing. Okay. That is horrifyingly bad. Yeah. And these there's 2 grown men in there. This thing is coming up to dock with the space station. And not the space station, the lunar orbiter, where the 3rd astronaut is hanging out in there. Does that that is a crappy model in a dark room with a moon backdrop, and people just absolutely go nuts for it. They love it. This is the greatest thing ever. This is fantastic. None of that is true. None of it. Right. Look at that. That's horrible. Horrible.
So for you then, like, so where is, like, is there space? Just is space within the flat Earth, within the dome?
Yeah, well, we live in the Earth system, not the solar system. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and there, what's beyond that? We think it's liquid. It looks like liquid when we look up at stars and planets. What we really see looks like lights inside of water. Did you ever you ever hear star in a jar, sololuminescence, where they take
No.
a jar of water and they they focus sound waves into it and they get things that look like this. Well, this
Wow.
isn't star in a jar. This is actually a star. This is the
Wow.
star Sirius. And when you do this to the star in a jar, these little suns appear in the water, right?
Mm,
Right.
mm,
And if you think about the universe, that's kind of like the universe, one verse. Uh, you know,
mm,
if you're religious or a Bible person, God spoke the world into existence with a universe.
mm.
Okay. And
Yeah.
you look at this is the star Arcturus. That doesn't look like a burning ball of hydrogen, billions
Mm,
and trillions of miles away, trillions of miles. They tell us these stars are at distances so big that our brains can't comprehend. The
mm,
closest star is 25 trillion miles away. That's the closest star.
mm.
So if you were traveling at 25 miles a second, that's very fast. 25
Mm.
miles a second. How long would it take you to get to the closest star?
I don't know. My maths is shit.
I know. Well, you can't do it in your head, but 25
Yeah.
miles is 25 miles a second pretty fast? Pretty
Yes.
fast, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So if you were going at 25 miles a second, it
Mm.
would take you 31,000 years to get to the closest star.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we could, if you want to like sit down and do the math, the size of the angular size, like my fist is pretty big right now, but when I
Yeah.
move it away, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And so you can calculate angular size, and your eye has what's called an angular size resolution limit. So when something gets smaller than 0.02 degrees, you can't see it, even though it's there,
Mm.
right? So if there was a little tiny speck right here, you couldn't see it. But if you zoomed in on it, it would get bigger,
Mm.
right? And so you're
Yeah.
increasing its angular size, and that's why you can see it. Well, we can scientifically prove something like the star Polaris, that if it was just 6 light hours away, it would be many, many, many times too small to see. And
Mm.
they tell us it's 433 light years away. Okay.
Yeah.
Magnitudes and magnitudes of nonsense. And
Mm.
they've convinced us, people say when you present people with this, they're going to give you, where'd you get your degree? And the reason that you can see this is because you didn't stay in that indoctrination camp and get a degree of nonsense. I
Mm.
took 4 years of astronomy in college, and I was awesome at it. I was really good at it. And people came to my room to hang out with me so I can teach them the astronomy. Pseudoscience. It's all theoretical nonsense.
Wow. I was going to ask about that in terms of like the planets and how does that work then in terms of flat Earth? Like where are the other planets then?
Well, what do they look like they are? Do you ever look up and see Mars? This
Yeah.
is what Mars looks like when you zoom in on it with a super zoom camera. It's a pulsing orb of energy, right?
Wow.
They
Yeah.
they tell us that Mars is this dusty, dirty planet. This is the actual footage of the U.S. landing a rover on Mars a couple months ago. Okay, this is the only proof that we have that we landed on Mars. But look how
Mm.
close it is, right? When you look at when it shows Mars.
Mm.
This is a dusty, dirty ball. A dusty, dirty ball.
Yeah.
When we look at it in the sky, it's a fire. It's bright. It's
Yeah.
brighter than any star. Well, light traveling over distance gets exponentially dimmer. Okay,
Mm.
it's called the inverse square law of light. If you double the distance of something, it's 1/4 of the brightness. If you half the distance of something, it's 4 times brighter. Well, look at this. What kind of camera do they have to make this thing so dim? Now it's got to travel 25, 38 million miles, whatever the distance is, back to Earth, and it looks like a burning star. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. We could also prove that the sizes are incompatible with how our eyes work.
Mm.
So if you clear your head and look up in the sky, those lights are right here in the sky. The next time you have a clear night and the moon is out, go look at it. It's right there within our sky. And especially
Mm.
when you see a daytime moon, you can see that there's blue sky beyond it.
Yeah.
You want to know what the moon is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so do I. Nobody knows. It's the biggest mystery on Earth, right? And here's the thing: new moon. A new moon is when there's no light on the moon. They tell us. Well, when there's a new moon, no one's ever seen it. Once it goes new, nobody from any angle, from any elevated site, from the U-2 spy plane to the international fake station, nobody has seen it. So how could it possibly be there? People go, well, it's right near the sun and the sun's too bright. Okay. What about during a total solar eclipse? During a total solar eclipse, you're looking right at the moon, if that is the moon. The sun is completely blocked out and no one is able to see it. You can zoom in on it with a telescope, with an infrared telescope. This is the eclipse that happened here in the United States just the other day. There's nothing here. What is this, right? And you know, on my app under the eclipses frequently asked question button, I made a model to show you how this could actually happen using a firmament with the source of the sun and the source of the moon behind the firmament, and it's all being projected into our reality, being focused into our reality, and it worked. It worked perfectly. So, is that a possibility of what's happening? Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember asking my son, he's only 9. I was like, what do you think the moon is? And he just said to me, like really straight faced, he was like, well, that's where, you know, there's people inside there, mummy, and they're busy working. And I was just like, okay, you know, and he believes it's some sort of craft where there's other beings inside doing something.
So there's all sorts of stories like that to keep you believing in space. You know, kids, what are their favorite movies? Space movies.
Yeah,
all of this stuff. And this is to control our minds. So people are, all right, why the lie? Why such a massive lie? And it's about controlling our minds. Here's the thing. When you wake up, welcome to Flat Earth, by the way. Now that you see this, unfortunately, and I say it's actually fortunate, but it's going to feel unfortunate. You're going to start seeing through everything. You're going to be like the crazy tinfoil hat mom, you know, who doesn't believe, who realizes that the Port Arthur incident wasn't real. Neither was the Sandy Hook one, right? Neither was the thing that happened in New York. Neither was, you know, the Boston Marathon. Once you start seeing that, people are going to think you're nuts. So
they already do, so that's absolutely fine. This is probably the nail in the coffin for some people. They'll probably just go be like, right, that's it. I can't take any more, Lindsay.
So here's the thing. You gotta, people like, you know, people don't want to get into this because they're like, oh my God, I'm gonna lose all my friends. But it is what it is. People have their journey. Some of them will come back to you and they'll be like, oh my God, you were right. I can't believe it. You know, and once they see it, they see it. And some of them will never wake up. Okay. My sister and brother will never wake up. All right. So that's their journey. There's nothing you can do about that. You make new friends and you make amazing friends. Flat earthers are awesome friends.
Yeah. And I think it's like, for me, it's like I said, you know, it feels like it's another piece of the puzzle. So like the last couple of years, you know, there's been so many truths coming to the surface anyway. And for me, this is just an extra element. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense to me, you know. And I don't have a scientific or logical brain at all. And I always admit that.
Excuse me.
You know,
so that's a psyop right there. You do have a logical brain, right? You don't have a scientifical brain. Is that the word? They want you to trade in your common sense for nonsense. Pretend this. You just appeared here on the world. You know nothing of this place. You know nothing. All you know how to do is speak, and that's it. And you go outside and you experience the world. It's flat. It's not moving, right? If there's a tiny little earthquake, you're like, whoa. You know, if you're in an airplane, you're napping, you're cruising along for hours and hours and hours, and the pilot just starts to descend slowly. You wake up. You're like, whoa, we're changing directions. Okay, but in the helio-nonsensical insane system, you're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. You're orbiting at 66,600 miles an hour. You're chasing the sun at over 500,000 miles per hour, and you're moving sideways at 1.3 million miles per hour, and you don't feel it. How silly is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Make sense to that.
All of those motions are happening, you know, and there's lakes that are perfectly glass. Okay. Perfect calmness. If I tapped my foot at the edge of that lake, it would send a wave across it. Right. If I tell people, get a dinner plate, fill it with water to the brim and hold it. Okay, you probably can do it pretty good. Now start walking. All right, now start walking in a circle. Okay, there's no way that water is going to sit there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating. Like, why do you think it causes such like opinions? Why do you think people are so opinionated about whether they are for flat Earth or globe?
It's easy to lie to somebody, but it's harder to convince them they've been lied to. People don't like being lied to because of their ego. That's one reason. And realizing that the earth is flat means that you have to redo a lot of stuff. You have to change a lot of core beliefs. And they've trained us. Some of our most foundational beliefs are at the core of our beliefs, and everything is built around that. So the bottom line is, all I like to say is, nobody likes having their ball taken away, because that's what you're doing. You're taking a ball from a child. And and everybody loved, spheres are nice. They're fun. Balls are fun. Why do we love balls? People like, I was on an interview and the guy's like, everything's round, so the earth is round. A sphere is perfect. The world is perfect. And that's all he had. He had nothing else. It was the funniest thing ever. But nobody likes having their ball taken away. Nobody, if I rip the foundation of all of your beliefs about something out from underneath you, you're fighting to protect those beliefs. But once you examine your beliefs in the helio-nonsensical model, you realize that they're ridiculous. And once you see them, you're going to start kicking yourself in the head going, why did I ever believe that? How did I ever believe that? And it's because they got us from childhood. And you repeat a lie enough times, it just becomes a fact. And then people write a book on it. And then a course is set on that book. And then somebody that learned from that book comes up with another ridiculous idea and writes another book. Now you got 2 books showing how science is evolving. No, BS is evolving. Okay. Nonsense. Now there is real science. There is real science. Someone built my iPhone. That's pretty good. That's, whatever it is. But the thing is that has nothing to do with the shape of the earth. Good.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, because a lot of the ancients, I was reading that apparently in Chinese history, there was never any mention that the earth was a globe until some Western Christians went over to China and introduced the idea to them. And that was in the 16th century, I believe, in China.
Well, I don't know if that story's true, and neither do you, because you don't have any witnesses or anything, and that's a story you've been told. It's a story you've been told. And so I don't know if you've seen it yet, but did you see my interview with Ruth, the 102-year-old woman?
Oh, no, I haven't seen that one.
I'll send you a link with the email that comes after this. But I was interviewing Ruth. She's 102 years old in February of 2020. And I was interviewing her about the world's fairs, because that's a whole nother rabbit hole about what was here not that long ago, just over 100 years ago. Yeah. And she had such a great memory. I asked her where she went to elementary school, and she told me, public school, Hamden, Connecticut, the street it was on, the teacher's name, kids in her class. I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. And I said, what did they teach you about the earth and science? And I had never mentioned any of this to her. And she goes, she looked at me, she goes, they taught me the earth was flat. And she goes, but then, years later, they changed it. So we started looking, and we found other people. We found a woman in Croatia that said in the 1930s that all the schools taught flat earth. And we found newspaper articles in the early 1900s about teachers being persecuted for teaching heliocentrism in the class. That it was, teachers being threatened with jail for teaching heresy. But then, the governments won, and they stole it from us. It became part of the curriculum. World War I, World War II, Depression, all of the stuff. It was a big reset. It was a great reset. Think about that. In the 1920s, the Great Reset started. Everybody had to not kill our war heroes, so they all got this in their arm, and they were all wearing face diapers, and then they all died. Okay, so what's going on? What's going on in this world? A quick question for you: are you married? Are you married? Is that a personal question? Do you have a partner?
No.
You're single.
No. Yeah.
Okay. Because I was going to ask if your partner is a flat earther, because if he's not, you got some work to do. Because I always say, good.
I was just going to say, I'm trying to like with my children, I'm sort of like trying to teach them that, you know, they've watched like Ancient Aliens, and it was my son who introduced me to the Antarctica stuff. So it's like they're learning from different sources, shall we
So
say.
Ancient Aliens is a very powerful show to keep your mind. It keeps you believing in outer space. They talk about your son probably got that idea of the moon having people in it from Ancient Aliens. It's a gatekeeping.
Right.
You know, I used to love Ancient Aliens, favorite show.
Yeah.
It's all mind control. It's unfortunate,
Mm.
but the thing is, you know, we're talking about the distances to the, you know, just if aliens came from the closest star, it would take them a long time to get here, you know, unless they could fold
Yeah.
space, because that's how they get rid of it. You know, they can fold space, they can travel anywhere to anywhere in no time because they're not traveling, because they folded space. That's a pseudoscientific nonsense you know, explanation. But
Mm.
if there was extra land out here, that
Mm.
would be extra territory. You call somebody that lives there maybe an extraterrestrial. You live here. If they lived out here, they live in the outer space. Extraterrestrial from outer space
Yeah.
could make it here. If they left after breakfast, they could come here. They could abduct somebody, and
Mm.
then they could go back and make it home for dinner with their family. Okay, in the same
Yeah.
day. So this is more exciting to me, right?
Mm.
There's people, hands and feet, and they might even speak English. Okay, living
Yeah.
in the extra terra here across the earth plane. This is
Mm.
exciting. This is real.
Mm.
Okay, this
Yeah.
is a solid possibility. This could be one puddle with multiple rings and multiple worlds on it on the extended earth plane, and maybe there's other puddles, right?
Mm.
Maybe
Yeah.
there's nothing else. I don't know, but
Yeah.
these are things that we want to know.
Yeah, so that's blown some of my concepts already and challenging my beliefs, because so I've been like working with the Pleiadians, and I've like spoken a lot about aliens, you know.
But that's okay. You just need to shift a little bit. The
Mm.
Pleiadians could be coming from here. Okay.
Yeah, that's my belief.
Yeah, and the stars and all the stuff we see in the sky, those are connected to us. My hypothesis is that the stars are souls, right? This is all a creation of the creator. This is all part of a creation, and we're here manifested in this world with a soul. Our soul is a spark of God. Our soul knows the truth. Our soul bought a ticket to the amusement park. We're here, and it gave us amnesia to experience the world, right? So when you're disconnected from your soul, you have a hard time. But when you connect with your soul is trying to show you the world, right? You're connected with your soul. You found flat earth. Okay. Think of you know, the movie with Keanu Reeves, The Matrix.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, he's depressed. He's like, something's wrong. He's disconnected from his soul. His mind is trapped in the matrix. He doesn't know where he is. He's trying to figure it out. And then all of a sudden he found flat earth, right? Just as for an analogy. And he unplugged from the matrix, right? I say, you've unplugged from the fear matrix. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of asteroids? Well, those are gone. Are you afraid of nuclear bombs? Well, you're going to find out those don't exist. Are you afraid of running out of food? Well, that's impossible, because you could stick a seed in the water, in the dirt, and then water, the most precious substance on earth, will fall from the sky and food will come out of the ground. So that's not a problem. Are you afraid of running out of water? There's infinite water below us. Okay. Infinite water. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of terrorists? They don't exist. There are no terrorists. There are people that are pissed off at the governments. You should be afraid of the governments. But the thing is, you know, you're in Australia. They're coming down hard on you there. If everyone right now said, I no longer listen to the authorities, that what we call the authorities, I don't even like that word. They don't exist. Then they're gone. They're gone. The only control they have over you is in your imagination. The problem is everyone's imagining it together. Everyone believes it. If you take out an Australian dollar, it's worthless. Okay. It has no value, but everyone believes it has value. So you can trade it to somebody for a sandwich or some milk or whatever you need. Okay. It's all in your imagination.
It's, you know, last year, like I was telling my mom and dad, I was like, you really need to watch the Truman Show. I said, because that is going to explain what like the world is like. Do you know what I mean?
True Man Show. Right? The True Man Show. They're showing us what's there. Here, this is funny. This helps people. If I wanted to go from Santiago, Chile to Australia, well, Santiago, Chile and Australia are at the bottom of the globe. They're pretty close. This is the shortest path, right? But we don't want to disturb the penguins. So we have to fly around, right? This would be the shortest route right here. Bam, no problem. Okay. That would be the shortest route, but that's not the way we go. They go all the way up to the northern hemisphere, all the way across America, and then all the way back down. And if you want to go to Western Australia, it's worse. They go all the way up, all the way over to China and Dubai. Not Dubai, is that Dubai? China, and then down to Singapore and to Western Australia. This is the flight route. Why would they go this extended route rather than just cutting across the bottom? And the answer is because the Earth is flat. You go all the way up Western Australia. We go across China, past Japan, Singapore, Western Australia. Airplanes fly straight and level over the Earth plane, not the air globe. They go over the level sea, not the sea curve, the sea level.
Yeah. Wow.
How about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even when you're on an aeroplane, they show you the curves, don't they? So they show the airplane is going in a curve when it's going from it.
Right. If you're going from Taiwan to LA, they show you this. They show you this from a different angle. It's a curve, but this is the route, right? You're looking. This line is a curve, right? Just like you're looking at my fingers, right? You can kind of tell it's a curve, but it looks like a straight line. But if you look at it, that's a curve. So that's how they show you, and they call it the Great Circle Route, right? But there was a medical emergency right about here. And they needed to land the plane. So instead of landing in Hawaii or Los Angeles, they went all the way up to Alaska, thousands of miles out of the way to land the plane. Why is that? And the answer is because here's the actual route. Taiwan, emergency, Alaska. Hawaii is all the way out here somewhere. Okay.
Yeah.
So the routes that they show you on the planes make no they make sense on a ball, but they don't make sense on a flat Earth. And we've caught them 16 times. There's been 16 emergency landings that we looked at, and none of them make any sense on a ball. They all make perfect sense on a flat Earth. And if you look in the FAA manuals and the CIA documents that we have found, they all say we treat the world as a flat, non-rotating plane when modeling things. A flat, non-rotating plane. Do you know why they do that?
No.
Because the Earth is a flat, non-rotating plane. Come on.
No, that all makes sense to me.
Yeah. Do you have my app yet?
No. Tell me about your app.
So my app is so when you try to search for flat Earth, you're gonna get propaganda. You're gonna end up with all of their disinformation. If you Google flat Earth, you end up with the Flat Earth Society, which are those images I showed you from the beginning, and none of that is real. So you could spend 500 hours researching flat Earth, but you'll give up before that. You're like, flat Earth is stupid. There's too much nonsense. So I created this app, one, to show you how it works, but the other thing is it bypasses the algorithms, right? Every day there's a new featured video that shows up. So I tell people, take the Flat Earth App Challenge, watch the daily video every day for 2 weeks. Okay. And then after that 2 weeks, if you're not a flat earther already and you still think the Earth is a globe, send me one proof of the globe and I'll give you 2 Bitcoins. But before you do that, you have to click this button here, the question mark. That takes you to the frequently asked questions page, and up comes all of the questions that you could possibly ask. Like, what about eclipses? What about gravity? What about seasons? You know, if I hit or why the lie? That's one of my favorite ones. If you click it, up comes a playlist. It's got to open YouTube, and the playlist will show you a list of videos that Google doesn't want you to see. You'll never find these videos, even though they're on YouTube. They're very, very difficult to find, and so you find those videos, and then you can really find out what's going on. In the app, if you hit the web button, up comes this page, and there's lots of stuff. I think the Lost History of Flat Earth is what you watched, the 5-hour video. Yeah. So that whole series is here. Watch that. That's fun. That'll take you the whole weekend. And because there's another 13-part series that's attached to that. Down here, mud floods, bottom right. Mud floods, that shows you our true history, that, you know, the advanced civilization that was here in the 1800s, but then there was some sort of reset that happened, you know, transcontinental railroads weren't built like they told us, they were excavated. Okay, they were here in the previous civilization. Tons of stuff, books, right here in the books page, boom, there's 16 emergency landings, awesome coffee table book. Tons of other stuff. If you're a book reader, you're trying to wake someone up to flat earth, buy them one of these books. All stuff, new stuff being added all the time. When you're talking to people, if you hit the little color button on the right, the photos button, up comes lots of useful photos. Like, oh, you believe in the moon landing? We went to the moon in this. If you were the parts person that has to order the parts to make this, where would you be ordering from? Would you call Lockheed Martin, or would you call the arts and crafts store and get some paper mache, some tin foil, maybe some curtain rods, some clear tape?
It looks a bit like, I don't know if you had it over in the US, but there was a cartoon called Button Moon that we had in the UK, and it was rockets made out of toilet rolls and like that.
Right. Well, they're telling us. I mean, here's NASA in their National Buoyancy Lab. This is how they practiced, and look, they're just green screening everything out, and that's what they show us as real. The app has tons of stuff in it, and it's an endless stuff. This I was showing you stars. Here's the star Procyon, right? Kind of looks like it's underwater, right?
Yeah.
Here's the photo of Pluto. Look at that. There's a desert shaped like Pluto, or is that just my imagination?
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff. You can look at planets, look at Earth. Something happened in the United States between these two pictures. I don't know. Is it growing? It's ridiculous. You look at the blue marble shot. They photoshopped the clouds in. The guy that made this at NASA admitted he made the entire thing in Photoshop.
Wow. The thing is, you can do so much, can't you, now with digital like imagery, that you can easily manipulate anything and everything.
Yeah, the argument they have is they didn't have Photoshop back then. Well, this is the 1982 picture of a Saturn that's in every science book, but we took it off their website, put it into Photoshop, cranked up the levels, and you can see the thing was not made in Photoshop. It was made with gluing a bunch of images together and taking a photo of it. And they didn't realize that black is not black in all cases. And they literally put it together, solid 100% evidence that this was made like a kid made it by gluing pictures together. All sorts of stuff. I got the landings in here. This is Werner von Braun, the Nazi scientist that was brought over from Russia, wherever he was brought over from, Germany, that he's running NASA. He wrote a book in the 1950s called Project Mars about a bunch of people that went to Mars, led by a guy named Elon.
Interesting.
And on the right is the rocket that Elon says he's going to take people to Mars in. But a month ago, he tweeted he wants to redesign it and make it pointier. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's mockery right there. That's predictive programming and mockery together. So there's all sorts of stuff. So this is like, if you had this in your hand while you're talking to somebody and they're interested and they're listening to you, you can pull up these images and help them. How is this possible on a spinning, twirling, whirling, corkscrewing Earth? How can you stack rocks like that? Right? The tiniest motion of any force. They tell us that the science tells us that at the equator, the water bulges 14 miles high from the spin. 14 miles high. That's 3 times the height of a commercial aircraft, right? So when you're flying from America to Australia, at what point do you triple your height just to skim over a body of water? Okay. And the answer is never. So real quick about the app, and then I'll jump out of it. The sky is a perfect clock. The sun goes around once every 24 hours. It's the hour hand of the clock, but it's not attached to the hour hand right now because here in America, I don't know if you have daylight. Do you have daylight savings time where you are?
Yes.
Oh, you do? Yeah. So daylight savings time is basically to throw us off our Earth body clock. It's literally, it's the dumbest thing in the world. If you were cold at night and you had a blanket and it just didn't come up high enough, if you cut a foot off the bottom and sewed it to the top, would that keep you warmer?
No.
Well, that's what they're doing with daylight savings time. It's the dumbest thing ever. So if the sun goes around once every 24 hours, it laps the moon once every 28 days. So the moon, its position and its phases keep track of the weeks and the months, which used to be called moons. And so that's how that goes. And then if I slow it down, I turn on the stars are going slightly faster than the sun. So they lap the sun once a year. So right now, the sun is moving into Cancer, the Tropic of Cancer. It's catching up to it. So, and then it'll slowly fade through Cancer over the month. It goes into Leo. And that's how the sun is in each constellation. So for those of you listening, or for you, seasons only make sense on a flat Earth. Right now, the sun is over the Tropic of Cancer. It's cold in Australia. You're having your winter. Well, we're having our summer because right down here, there's Florida. The sun's going to go right over South Florida, and it's hot there. It's friggin' hot because the sun's directly above us. The sun is over Mexico, right? But Australia is far away from the sun. You're having your winter. The sun migrates in between these two tropics every 6 months, 6 months out, 6 months in. So I'm going to jump 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The sun goes out to the Tropic of Capricorn in December. You're having your winter because the sun is high in the sky, close to you, above you. And we're having our winter because it's farther away from us. Right?
That makes more sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I'm farther north. I'm here, up here. So I'm farther north. Like your sun, I guess northern Australia is always pretty warm, right? Right? Because you're in the tropics. You're never too far from the sun. Right? But everything freezes here in the winter. All the water freezes, and that's because we're far away. One more thing. Here in the center, the magnetic center, what's the sun doing? The sun is arcing around me, right?
Yeah.
In the Arctic, it arcs around me. If I'm out here in the Antarctic, what's it doing? It's not arcing around me. It's antarcing.
No. Yeah.
Antarctic, Arctic. Right?
Yeah.
Has a compass. Shows you how a compass really works. East and west are circles. North is in the center.
Just a question. So what do you believe is in the center? Do you believe there's something in the center of the Earth as well then?
I do. I believe that there's a magnetic mountain, and all compasses point towards the magnetic north. So that's how circumnavigation works, right? So I got a compass here. The needle's pointing towards the magnetic center, and I'm trying to push it west, and west makes me keep turning to the north to correct, right? So west is a circle. Any direction you point is truly south. Right? Even if you point north, as soon as you pass the north, you're heading south. All of these lines going away from the center are south. Every single one of them is south. Now I'm pushing it east. East is a circle. East and west are circles, right? Yeah. So if I try to dead wreck in west and I don't correct to the north and I just follow that straight line, immediately I'm heading south. The farther I go, the more south I'm going, right?
Yeah.
Right. And now if I go and I want to go south, now on a globe, if I couldn't continue south, if I go south, which is any direction away from the center, I should, when I get off the edge there. So if I go south, I should pop up right over on the other side, right over here. But I don't. You just keep going, and no one's ever done it. Right. Yeah. Billions of people have traveled the world east and west, which is just a circle like I showed you.
Yeah.
0 people have done it south.
Why? Okay. Interesting.
Do you know why you can't circumnavigate south? Trick question. Come on.
Is it because if it's not a globe, then you can't go around it? So that would just
because the Earth is flat. You're just going away from the center of the pond.
Yeah.
You're going away from the center. Right?
Yeah.
So I have a way to put the flat Earth to bed, kill it, and be done with it. And it wouldn't cost millions and millions of dollars. It wouldn't be a big construction project. We can do it in one day. Get a whole bunch of people. You all meet here. They fly us to Antarctica. We land 2 planes, 2 big planes, and we refuel. They have fuel there. And we get a whole bunch of scientists, flat earthers, teachers, whatever, get them on a plane. One plane flies and you go you only go like minimum height, 1,000 feet, whatever. So you can, and you go follow the shoreline around. Okay. You always keep the shoreline in view. And so all the people on this plane are looking out the left window. All the people on this plane are looking out the right window. You can see that you're flying at the average speed of an airplane because you can see the land, right? Because an airplane flying at 45,000 feet could be going twice the speed. You would never know. But down on the ground, you can kind of like, all right, I can see this. You can verify your speed. You know, you fly on a normal plane, like, you know, an Airbus 300 or whatever, because you know the maximum speed of that plane, unlike the Qantas planes, which I believe go much faster. And 7, 8 hours later, 9 hours later, you should be over here because they say it's about 13,000 miles around. So boom, the planes meet here. You've just proved that this is at the bottom of a ball. The problem is they won't let you do it. And if they did, they'd find out that the Earth is much bigger. The last person that did it was Captain Cook in a boat. It took him 3.5 years and he went over 60,000 miles.
Wow.
60,000 miles. You know, the equator is right here. And if this was a ball, it's 24,901 miles around. If it was a ball, this would have to be smaller, like 13,000 miles. But it's not. This is the shoreline of Antarctica. No one has traversed it in, you know, in 60,000 miles.
Yeah. Wow. That's
Yeah.
far.
That's because the Earth is flat.
Yeah. So if anyone is watching this and they're in complete denial still, and they're like, you're talking a lot of rubbish, I don't believe you.
One proof of the globe.
What would you say?
I said, give me one proof of the globe. You know, the thing that got me was distances. And this is the shot that they call the black swan. And we know the distance to these towers. It's not like looking at a boat. You could argue how far the boat is. We know how far this is. This is 9.4 miles away. Well, 9.4 miles, that's not that far. But if you do the globe math, at 9.4 miles with a camera 1 foot off the horizon should be only 1.2 miles away. And there should be 59 feet of curvature. Now, someone might argue, well, you're not seeing the whole bottom. There's some of it's missing, you know, because you get this compression. But this is just a still frame from a video, which is much clearer. You can see the horizon is miles and miles beyond it, where there should be hundreds of feet of curvature. And the globe argument is, well, it's refraction. The horizon that's over the side of the ball is refracting up and stopping right at your eye level magically. And you know, nothing in front of it refracts, and the back, you know, if it refracted, it could refract up higher than your eye level. It would look, the world would be crazy if there was stuff like that. Yeah. This is the globe killer. And there's tons of stuff like this. We have in the app under We Can See Too Far. There's tons of videos showing you the experiments we did, documenting it, making it so you can see that we're not faking it. And you can go do it yourself. That's what happened to me. I started seeing all these videos. I was like, all right. And now Nikon had just come out with their P900 camera. And I bought it. And I spent like $1,000 on the camera, a tripod, went down to the beach, sat down at the water's edge. There's a buoy that's 11 miles off my beach. So I rounded down 10 miles just to give the globe every benefit of the doubt. And I zoomed in on it, and I'm like, there it is. There should be 66 feet of curvature there. And I could see the water way beyond it. And so I was going back. I'm like, maybe the math is wrong. And I went to these globe troll, you know, websites that, you know, I believe that these people are either just lost souls or paid agents to misconstrue. And they say, well, on a ball, you know, you're over here and the object is over here. So you have to split the difference, which is nonsense. But okay, I'll give it to them. 33 feet of curvature. Well, this buoy is only 6 feet, 10 feet high, whatever it is. 33 feet of curvature. I can see it. I can see the water beyond it. Your globe is dead, no matter how big you make it or anything. Large bodies of water at rest lay flat. You can't have high pressure next to low pressure. Space is low pressure, right? Pretty low pressure, zero pressure, they tell us. You can't have it without a physical barrier. Okay?
Yeah. So would you recommend that people try and go out and investigate it for themselves and try and disprove your theory?
No, you should just believe what I say and tell everyone the Earth is flat. No, you have to go out and do this stuff yourself. You know, people say, where did you learn your flat earth? On YouTube? Where did you get a degree? Blah, blah, blah. YouTube is a source of information, getting less and less because they're censoring everything, but they haven't removed all the flat earth videos yet, but they've shadow banned them. You won't find them. But if you get my app, it's $3 American. It's a one-time charge. If you're unsure, go read the reviews. The reviews will turn you into a flat earther. It's the highest rated app in the App Store and the Google Play Store. There is now people, the app, the app was very simple when I first made it. People like, hey, can you add this? I'm like, hey, that's a good idea. And I started spending thousands and thousands and thousands. And I said, this is just getting too expensive. And so people said, can you put a donation button on there so we can donate to it? And I said, that's a cool idea. And Apple and Google Play do not allow donation buttons. So what I put on there was a subscribe button. Very easy. So you get the app, a little thing will pop up. It goes, would you like to subscribe for 99 cents? And you can go, nope. You can exit out immediately. No ads, no wait time. And it only shows up once a day. Okay. So turn on your app. The app pops up, exit out. You got the app for the whole day. No problem. You still get everything. Okay. Cool. So I make it easy. But what happens is people love the app so much. They hit that subscribe and they hit the subscribe for a year because they love it. Okay.
Oh, that's good to know. Awesome. So there's one more question that I really want to ask you, David, because it's something like, again, which is like challenging my beliefs. And when I read this in the email, I was like, what? So it said that you don't believe that William Shakespeare or Anne Frank existed.
No, they're totally made up stories. The world is a stage so much that the guy that said it is a stage. It's all an act. There's our world is scripted and then they play it out on the world stage. Right. So, and they always have to tell us what they're doing. Right. Yeah. Why the lie? That's what people are probably screaming now. Anyone that's watching, why the lie? And it's to control our minds. It's to control us because once you wake up, you unplug from the fear matrix. Yeah. And you no longer start giving them your fear. This is a spiritual war, an energetic war, and they live off of our fear. They live off of our ability to manifest, right? We are here. Our thoughts create our reality. Everything that you have around you is come from your thoughts. You create your own world. And they don't want us to know that's how the world works. They don't want us to know that we can manifest almost anything we want. Well, how come I don't have $1 million? It's because you just said that, right? Yeah. Well, I want $1 million. What you're really saying is I don't have $1 million and I'll never have $1 million. That's what you're saying. So you have to feel your way into this world. You have to put your feelings in front of you. Like if you want something, ask yourself, well, first, do you really want it? Do you want money? No, you don't want money. You want happiness. You want freedom. Well, does money get you there? Maybe that's part of it. You have to focus on the feeling of what you want. Yeah. And then the universe will deliver it to you fast as you will allow it. Okay. Yeah. That's how this world works. They don't want us to know that. I believe that the people that are controlling this world have lost control of their souls. They've sold their souls and they no longer have the ability to manifest, but they do have the ability to control us, to get us to manifest the world that they want. Okay. And that's how they use us. That's why they need us. They're not allowed to just kill us. That doesn't work. The world doesn't work that way. Yeah. But they can convince us to do stuff. Anybody that got this did it voluntarily. Well, I wanted to go to a concert. Well, you're an idiot. Okay. It's they're doing stuff and the next year is going to be a crazy one. You thought last year was crazy. You're going to be begging for 2020. You're going to be begging for it. So here's the thing. People go, well, there's nothing I can do about it. I still have to go to work. I have to survive. I got to do this, blah, blah, blah. That's the psyop. The psyop is this entire thing can change if everybody just says no. If you resist, if everyone resists, right? I have never put on a face mask. Never, right? Me neither. I'm the only one in the shopping center not wearing a mask, and I've dealt with it. I've been banned from Costco, right? But I found a great, my favorite grocery store. They even protect my right to not wear a mask. I'm the only one in the freaking store. Actually, there was one guy the other day. He even gave me a high five. It was nice.
Yeah. It's nice. It is nice when you see other people that aren't wearing the mask as well, and you're like, yay, it's not just me alone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I want to make a shirt that says, "Are you wearing a mask because everyone else is wearing a mask?" Right? And if you think about it, what the heck is that thing doing anyway? I mean, you can smell things through it. Well, that's bigger than a alleged V particle. I don't want to say too much because the screw tube will take it down.
No, it's definitely interesting times that we're sort of living in, isn't it? So do you feel like there's going to be like a bigger movement? Like, do you think there's going to be more people sort of waking up to the fact that the Earth is flat over this year and sort of coming to believe it? And
so here's the thing: your next door neighbor is a flat earther. Did you know that?
No.
Well, how would you know? You're both in the closet, right? You're just slightly coming out of the closet. So there's flat earthers everywhere. You just don't know it. I went to a medical freedom rally in my town just yesterday. There was probably, I don't know, 50, 80 people there, whatever it was. Half of them know the earth is flat. It's because of all of the stuff that's going on. People are waking up by the droves. Don't be the last person to get on the flat earth bus because it's here. It isn't going away. You know, when I asked you if you had a husband or something, I say couples together, if one's a flat earther and one's not, the flat earther has the high end because they're not changing, but their spouse may change, right? Their spouse, there's no way you're going back to the ball. Once you see flat earth, there's no going back, right? People go, that sounds like a cult. No, that sounds like you saw the truth. You know, guess what? Water's wet. Now that you know that, can I ever convince you that it's not? Okay.
So how long have you been doing this then, David? Now, how long have you been talking about flat earth and part of this movement?
Since about 2015.
Have you?
And it was back then. You mentioned flat earth, immediately the person goes, "You're a moron," right? You know that, and that was the attitude, and they mock you. Now it's everywhere, and people are hearing it so much. You know, you mentioned so when people that don't know me, I'm hanging out and they're like, "Hey, what do you do?" I'm like, "Well, I do, I go on a lot of radio shows, a lot of podcasts, and I talk about truth." Well, what kind of truth? They're like, "Well, all different kinds of truth, but the truth of our world." What do you mean the truth of this world? So I make them draw it out of me. And then I go, "Well, do you think you live on a spinning globe?" And they're like, "I heard about this. Are you a flat earther?" And it was like, that's not bad. And they're like, "What about seasons?" And then I break out the app and I show them how the sun migrates. They're like, "That's very interesting. Where do I get that app?" Okay. And, in the app, you can share the app with people. If you hit the photos button, the first photo is this QR code. So if someone goes, "Where do you get the app?" Pull it up and go, point your camera at this. Bam, they got the app. The app is more contagious than COVIDs. Okay. I call it COVIDs. Okay. It's more contagious because if you see it, you're infected and it ain't going away.
Oh, awesome. Well done for creating that app. I'm sure it'll be very beneficial for many, many people, and especially for those who are just coming around to it.
Just real quick, it's on Google Play. You need an Android phone 8.0 or higher. It's not available on computers. iPhone, you need an iPhone 6 or better. It works great on iPads. But on the Google Play, they've already got the Flat Earth Society. It's called the Ron Media Group, has created an app with the same name, stole some of my graphics. I think it might even be free. Get the app. You get the app if you want. It's horrible. It's a gatekeeping app. And don't send me an email telling me my app stinks because that's not my app. Okay. Mine is by Blue Water Bay. You can find me at theflatearthpodcast.com. And the links to the app are there if you forget the name, because it is a long, convoluted name. But it should come up on the top of, if you just search Flat Earth Clock, it comes up as number 1, the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app.
Awesome. And I'll obviously put all the links where people can find you underneath so they can email you and try and disprove your theory or be like, high five, dude.
2 Bitcoins. That's worth $80,000 today.
Wow, that's cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, David, for coming on and talking with me today about Flat Earth. I really appreciate it. And keep spreading the word, basically, and speaking your truth.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The Flat Earth Sun and Moon Clock app. A dynamic new app to teach family and friends about where they actually live. The sky is a perfect clock. The sun measures the hours and days. The moon measures the weeks and months. The star constellations measure the seasons and years. 12/12 or 24-hour clock face. Or go hands-free. The Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. with new added features. World Time. See what time it is all around the flat Earth. A true Earth compass that shows true navigation across and around the flat Earth plane. Weather. Tap for detailed local weather information. Know what phase and where the moon is at all times. Watch the sun travel between the tropics for the seasons. Select an amazing background. Add your own or have the app change it to a new one automatically every time you use the app. Add a countdown to your next big date. Learn the truth about our world with the featured video of the day. Web button for additional flat Earth related features, from the mythical curve calculator all the way to Tartaria. While talking to friends, easily pull up pictures that expose the globe lie and shine light on the flat Earth truth. Video playlists in different languages. See the real trade winds circling the flat Earth, and clean screen features. Simply click off the items you don't wish to see. The Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app is the best tool to show your friends and strangers how our flat Earth actually works.